Hello everyone, friends. My name is Denis Galanzowski.
Today we are once again going to analyze three completely different statements about mobilization in Ukraine, which all show one simple thing. Mobilization will intensify, possibly as soon as in the coming weeks, and no one is going to correct the mistakes that were made since the end of 2022. No one intends to fix them. And this proves only one thing, that people will continue to flee from Ukraine. They will try in various ways to leave the country in order not to become victims of the lawlessness and arbitrariness that unfortunately exists now. And we'll start with the statements of the spokesperson of the Poltava Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center, Istomin, who twists facts, distorts reality, and substitutes concepts. And all for what? I honestly don't know what for, because reasonable people understand everything anyway, and there's no point in explaining anything to unreasonable ones. And let's start with his first statement.
Well, while some, as they say, are looking for ways to dodge, this person found a way to get involved. I mean, well, it's just respect, my deep respect to everyone who makes such a decision.
Why Istomin himself? He spends his time quietly in studios and the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center. And very often he doesn't just keep silent, but actually covers up the violations that are happening. The question remains open.
As long as well, it turns out that he's stronger than those people, as you say, even in the yearly benchmarks, they fought the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center.
No reasonable person in Ukraine has ever chosen to fight the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center.
There is no opposition to the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center. The only thing
people disagree with.
This is a violation by the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center of Ukrainian law, the Constitution of Ukraine, and total inaction
in solving these problems. The only one, all else is fiction.
No one in Ukraine has ever opposed the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center or mobilization. Only against violations of the law and unconstitutional actions committed by certain employees of the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center.
I get that fighting your own military might be easier than fighting Russian occupiers. Well,
with your own people, the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center finds it easier to deal with civilians than Russian occupiers.
Isn't that right?
We need to identify the real enemy.
He's right. You need to understand who the enemy is for a civilian.
Who is the enemy?
The one who attacked his country and continues to commit crimes against him. Or the one who is inside this country and commits crimes against him. It seems to me that when it comes to crimes, there is no difference.
For some reason, some employees of the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center, including Istomin, want to prove a simple fact to us.
If crimes are committed against you by Russians, then that's bad.
If crimes are committed against you by employees of the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center, then that's normal.
That's not right. Both the first and the second case are... That's nonsense. That shouldn't happen. If Ukrainian law is followed, there won't be tension. If those who break the law, those who commit crimes, are constantly punished, then there won't be this tension and there won't be these conflicts.
For example, in the Poltava region, in 4 districts, something happens once a day in one of them. If one person escapes from the police and the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center, in a month that number reaches around 120 people. Regarding Ukraine, that's already around 2,500. That's if we take just one person from the Poltava district, for example, or from the Kremenchuk district, who gets released from mobilization in this way.
Yeah, you see, so he's naming specific numbers of conflict cases.
In reality, there are about 2,500 conflicts between the TCC and civilians every month.
As I understand it, that's kind of a minimum number. And here's the question. Well, yes, He's talking about the fact that a person runs away. What does the person do? The person just ran away and that's it. Everything that the person... This case involves an administrative offense for not updating military registration data. Correct? Correct. What happens after these people run away? The police and the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center, on their part, start committing a criminal offense when they begin to chase them, detain them, and bring them to the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center. Because let me remind you that failing to update military registration data is a violation of the Code of Ukraine on administrative offenses, where there is no such concept as search, no such concept as detention, and especially no such concept as delivery to the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center. The only option for detention under this code is when a court issues a decision to detain a specific person who has committed an administrative offense. And exclusively so that this person is brought to the courtroom by the police, not by employees of the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center, not by military personnel, only by the police, where the person will appear before the court, yes, and the court issues such decisions only if the person is evading responsibility for such an offense. No deliveries to the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center are provided for. If we are talking about employees of the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center, then the only thing is that they have no right at all to even touch a person on the street. They have the right to issue a summons, hand it over, and inform in this way, that's all. They have no right to touch anyone, detain anyone, bring anyone in, or go around bothering people on the streets. They lack that authority. All of this is an abuse of official authority, which means it's a criminal offense. But for some reason, the focus is on those who commit administrative offenses, and those who commit criminal offenses are being protected. If this system is not perfect, because, as they say, we are at war, we need people in the armed forces of Ukraine, and so on, then we shouldn't be targeting civilians. We should go to the Verkhovna Rada and ask why, by the end of 2025, the necessary laws that would allow still haven't been passed. That would allow somehow work with this format. Now, it turns out the Verkhovna Rada does nothing. Doesn't pass any laws at all. All the aggression falls on civilians who don't like that their rights are being violated. And that's it. And this division in Ukrainian society just keeps growing. And let me remind you, our ministers are stealing billions. Billions of hryvnias. And we can see this from the investigation into the Midas operation by the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, where, as one of the representatives of the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine has already stated, at least 4 current and former ministers are involved in just one corruption scheme of unprecedented scale. But again, in the end, the ones to blame will be, right, the damned draft dodgers. That's Istomin's statement. Let's move on to the next one. Former member of parliament, and now, if I'm not mistaken, a serviceman in unmanned systems, Ihor Lutsenko, who also decided to comment on mobilization.
Remember, mobilization is fiction. So if this fiction continues, in 2 years, there will not be more people in the army, but fewer.
We see that he says there is no mobilization, it's a fiction, and it really is a fiction. Why? Because those who have money get exemptions, deferments, loopholes, and leave the country not through unofficial border crossings like those without money do, but simply because they have access either to a lot of money or to people in power. That's all there is to it.
No one can let us through. Therefore, the issues of service terms, the question of evolution, and the rotation model of service all depend. They are derivative, deeply derivative, from the problem of compulsory mobilization in Ukraine. That is, if Ukraine can somehow mobilize these millions of draft dodgers, those outside, then yes. A rotational model and set service terms will be possible, but only if the conditions are met. If not, in a year we will have nothing at all. A different situation.
It was hard to hear him. Maybe his pronunciation is off, I can't tell. But basically he was talking about the fact that if millions aren't mobilized now, nothing will happen. I have a slightly different opinion. It seems to me that before, to intensify the mobilization, which we're always told must be intensified repeatedly, To begin with, it wouldn't be a bad idea to mobilize the money that's being stolen by ministers, deputies, and government officials at various levels. Maybe then, when the Ukrainian armed forces are provided for a bit better, instead of securing the future of our officials for dozens of generations ahead, people will probably feel there's a bit more justice and they'll have a bit more motivation.
Yes. Second, order must be restored in the Territorial Recruitment and Social Support Center. I'm talking about those crimes and those violations that unfortunately have already become systemic today and are confirmed by dozens, without exaggeration, dozens of members of parliament of Ukraine. And everyone sees it, everyone knows it, no one is doing anything about it. Let's see how things will develop. We see that right now the hottest news is the large-scale investigation by the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine,
Where, as it turned out, those people who are supposed to lead the country to peace and victory are a bit busy with other matters.
for example, embezzling billions.
And maybe some European partners will get involved here,
And maybe the Americans too.
and of course our law enforcement agencies will start working for the good of Ukraine and not for the benefit of certain representatives of our government, who, I remind you, are always temporary.
What do you think about this, friends? Write in the comments. It will be very interesting to hear and read your opinion. I wish everyone a good day. See you.